I got to eat my fill for the first time in a while, so I am quite satisfied. She spoke, although her mouth didn't move. That was extremely bizarre, but there were several even more pressing questions. The most shudder-inducing was the mystery of what exactly she'd eaten her fill of. Hilma had a guess, but she didn't want to believe it. In that state of mind, she asked, Hey, are you going to eat me too? Huh? Oh, no, you're a different auntie. It provided no relief. She had a hunch that an even crueler fate awaited her. Hey, kid, wanna have some fun? She slid the robe she was wearing off one shoulder. She took pride in her body. When she had been a high-class prostitute, sleeping with her had cost an extraordinary sum. And even after that, she had maintained her charms and didn't put on any extra fat. She was sure she could still get even the most antisocial guy in the mood, so she was confident she could easily arouse the interest of a child. But there was no sign of any special feeling in the boy's eyes. She acknowledged that she wasn't as attractive as the maid next to him. Still, despite having retired, she was a pro. She could make even the most half-hearted guy burn with desire. She approached him slowly so as not to cause alarm. Her movements were smooth and graceful like a snake. She didn't sense any desire coming from the boy, so she changed tactics. She slowly reached around his neck and activated a magic item, Tattoo of Viper. The snake tattoos on each of her hands fleshed out, raised their heads, and struck at the boy's body. If they bit him with their potent neurotoxin, he would immediately go convulsing into the next world. Hilma had no way to fight, so this was her trump card. The snakes lashed out quick as whips, but the boy grabbed them dexterously. He crushed them in his fists without a moment's hesitation. The tattoos of Viper slithered back into her arms. The snakes themselves had been killed, so she wouldn't be able to use them until a day had passed for recovery. Now, in the worst possible scenario, having taken hostile action without achieving anything, Hilma staggered backward. The most horrible thing, however, was that the boy's expression hadn't changed at all during the entire time. He didn't seem flustered after being attacked, and he didn't look hostile. I'll be going then, he said. Where? The moment the question entered her mind, a sharp pain shot through her knee. It hurt so badly she couldn't stand. She collapsed on the floor. She let out an agonized cry. In a cold sweat from the pain, she looked at her knee, which she regretted. My leg. Her left leg was bent the wrong way. Not only that, but her bones poked through the bright red flesh. Sobbing from the unbelievable pain, she thought to reach out a hand to hold it, but she hesitated. She was scared to touch it. It was at that moment that the boy seized her by the hair and set off walking. He dragged her away with strength that didn't match his boyish appearance. The young dark elf paid no attention to the sound of more than a few of her hairs tearing free from the scalp in his grasp. Ow, stop it. In response to Hilma's shrieks, the boy just gave her a quick glance. He didn't stop walking. We have to hurry. Late Fire Moon, September 10:20 p.m. After raiding the building, Entoma Vasilisa Zeta went out the door. She gathered all the papers that had stuck to her feet, rolled them up, and tossed them into the building. Their original plan had been to dispose of anyone inside, gather important documents and items of value, and withdraw. It would have been best to leave no trace, like a bird leaving its nest. But they didn't have time to go through the papers. Since they simply seized everything, the aftermath made it look like a burglar had broken in. Still, that in itself wasn't a problem. Demiurge, who had sent Entoma and Mare out, had mentioned it as a possibility. The problem was that they were running far behind schedule. None of the demons who had accompanied the pair from Nazarick were around anymore. Mare had captured the most important person in the building and gone ahead to their meeting before Entoma. The minions had taken the mountain of stuff responsible for the delay in their schedule and left. Yes, the reason their calculations had gotten thrown off was that they discovered the basement just as it was time to withdraw. It had been jam-packed with smuggled goods and what appeared to be illegal drugs, collecting all that had been slow going. For one thing, the basement was split into a number of small rooms. The valuable-looking items had been hidden among a huge mess of other things. The forest really did do a great job hiding trees. It was impossible for Entoma and the demons to carry out every single item, so they had to dive into the veritable jungle of loot and search for the best wood. If the woman Mare had been present at the time, they probably could have figured it out much faster, but they already finished with her by then. Entoma and the demons had decided to inspect the items and cram the garbage into one of the rooms. Even for a crew with far superior muscles to humans, it was still an annoying job. Nevertheless, it was worth doing, and they had most likely succeeded in hauling all the valuable goods out of the basement. Entoma, who was the last one remaining after acting as overseer, looked up at the night sky and wiped her forehead in a special motion reserved for those who have done their job. Not a single drop of sweat had formed, but the gesture reflected how she felt. Okay, then. Everyone hurry up and haul that stuff. At Entoma's orders, a bunch of heavily laden insects larger than humans flew off into the night sky. They were giant beetles she de-summoned with a bug tamer ability. With the deep, loud drone of beating wings, they soared straight across the sky toward their destination. After seeing off the insects and their items, Entoma remembered the object in her hand. Oh, I didn't eat this. Oh no, that one do. She gave herself a theatrical thump on the head and brought the severed arm of the man up beneath her lower jaw. With a few sloppy scarfing noises, she whittled the arm down and her throat moved. Her dainty belch was accompanied by the smell of blood and gore. The soft, fatty meat of women and the lean meat of children are both tasty, but for a diet, the muscly meat of a man is best. After consuming some of the flesh while deftly avoiding the bones, she chucked the arm back into the building. Delicious, thank you for the meal. She made a little bow at the mansion and then began departing for the next destination detailed in her orders, albeit later than planned. She hadn't gone more than a few steps, however, when a voice called out to stop her. Hey there, nice evening, ain't it? I wonder about that. Doesn't seem like a very good evening for you at all. It was hard to tell if the human who had slowly come into the open was a man or a woman. While the newcomer had the likeness of a woman somewhat, that hulking physique led Entoma to the conclusion that male might be the correct guess. What ray you doing out here? Taking a walk? What ray you munchin' on? Looks like you ray enjoying it. Me eat. A human S? Yes, human me at. Something cold had emerged in the man-woman S tone, but Entoma didn't worry. She wasn't about to consider a human S feelings. If the creatures bothered her, she would stomp them. If they didn't bother her, she would ignore them. If she got hungry, she would catch and eat them. She thought so little of their kind, it would have been strange to care about the feelings of one of them. Aha. So a monster appears. I didn't know the 8 fingers were keeping pet monsters. Well, it seems like they screwed up with the keeping part. The man-woman slowly held up a war pick. That was when Entoma began to feel troubled. Hey, how about we just decide we never saw each other? A strange expression appeared on the man-woman's face. It was probably surprise at hearing her proposal. I am also here for work, so fighting Yahoo would be a pain. Besides, I am full right now. Sorry, I may not look it, but I am one of the kingdom's top adventurers. I can just be all I see and let a people-eating monster off the hook. We can have you existing in the human world. Ah, what a bother. But you ray strong, so maybe I'll eat you later. Entoma fixed her eyes on the man-woman head-on for the first time. She appeared to be a pure warrior. HRMM must be pretty strong. Entoma wasn't a warrior by trade, so she couldn't gauge the strength of her opponents very well. Still, she could tell this one outmatched her. Rach, the man-woman charged, swinging the war pick. Entoma gracefully dodged, but the war pick pursuing her abruptly changed direction mid-swing. It wasn't a fluid motion making use of centrifugal momentum. It was a brute force swing that altered the weapon's trajectory with overpowering muscular strength. While dodging again, Entoma activated a skill. Hey, you ray just gonna keep running away? The war pick swung around. The wind it whipped up bypassing Entoma's head ruffled her fake hair. You must love whooshing that thing around, who? In response to the taunt, she heard a ch. Just as she was activating another skill, the war pick came down, but she dodged it easily. With no target left to strike, its momentum drove the weapon into the ground. Entoma scoffed at the repetitive, workmanlike attacks. Her face didn't move, but her opponent, the human, could sense her ridicule clearly. The next second, however, Entoma realized that the man-woman had done something possible only with overpowering strength aim for that careless moment. Break. The earth around the war pick in the ground shattered all at once. No, the cobblestones collapsed. It was as if a massive earthquake had occurred in just that one spot. For the first time, Entoma couldn't maintain her stance. Meanwhile her opponent, through the effect of some magic item she didn't know, which remained perfectly stable. Entoma saw the dirty edge of the war pick rise up. I underestimated this person, she scolded herself. Dodging it would be easy enough. Certainly, if she were human and the ground beneath her had been destroyed, she would have lost her balance and found it difficult to escape between the two shock waves. But Entoma was one of the Pleiades. All the magic items she had equipped were upper tier, so this situation didn't bother her one bit. There was just one problem. To dodge, she had to jump aside. It would get her maid uniform dirty. Was that a pardonable offense? It was her best outfit, given to her by the supreme beings. Time to finish this. Hostility appeared on her face beneath her mask for the first time. Time to finish this. I am going to kill you. Filled with murderous intent, not the mild annoyance of a human brushing away, a bug Entoma raised her left arm to meet the descending war pick. Even a floor guardian wouldn't make it through this attack unscathed, so for her, it would be nearly impossible. The next second, instead of metal gouging flesh, the clang of hard object against hard object rang out. Entoma's left hand suddenly had a small shield sticking to it, quite literally. There was a bug with over 8 legs clinging to her arm. What is that thing? I am a bug tamer. So I can summon bugs and put them to work for me. She flung her other arm to the side. A long bug that looked almost like a broadsword flew out of the dark night. It affixed itself to the back of her right hand. Sword bug and shell bug. I am gonna kill you. I wasn't going to, but I can let this stand. Entoma charged and launched a single stroke. She sliced open the man-woman's armor. Blood spurted, but it was far from a lethal blow. Even if it had been impossible to evade Entoma's all-out attack, the warrior had been able to get away with only a light injury. So that stuff earlier about being top class in the kingdom was neither exaggeration nor a bluff. But if this is all this person's got, they ray no match for me. Entoma Vasilisa Zeta may not have been built purely for combat like Yuri Alpha, but she was still a member of the Pleiades. That meant that a mere human could never match her strength. She swung again and bathed their face in a fountain of blood. Because of the wound from the first attack, this blow cut deeper, not such a light injury this time. Your movements have changed. Does that mean you're taking this seriously now? The angry shout came at the same time she swung the war pick. Entoma repelled it with her shell bug. The shock that ran through her was surprisingly intense. She braced her legs and didn't stagger. There was no harm in doing so, but this was a manifestation of her pride. Being moved by a human was obnoxious. The man-woman didn't die. Instead, maintaining momentum, they unleashed a fluid chain attack. It was an attack full of Sturm und Drang and was probably buffed by one of those special martial arts exclusive to this world. But Entoma made skillful use of her sword and shell bugs. She blocked all 15 attacks and emerged unscathed. Entoma had no way of knowing that had been Gagarin of the Blue Rose's ace move. Gagarin performed it by activating multiple arts simultaneously. It was a super elite chain attack. Each blow in the barrage was backed by the full strength of Gagarin's powerful arms. It could defeat even the martial art fortress. It was possible to stay on the receiving end only with a defensive art that few geniuses were able to acquire. Impenetrable fortress. Yet Entoma was blocking everything with her innate physical strength. This was a gap born of a difference in level and racial physical ability. Even when the first glimpse of despair appeared in her opponent's eyes, Entoma showed no emotion. Her only thought was to kill. Piwa. It was the sound of someone coming up for air. At the same time, the chain of attacks stopped. Entoma took her right hand, the one with the sword bug, drew it back like a bow, and thrust it forward like an arrow. Her aim was the chest of the man-woman in front of her. The war pick rose up, but it moved at the speed of a tortoise. Entoma's stab was faster and pierced the man-woman's chest, or that was supposed to happen. Her blade sliced air. The sword bug missed its mark and thrust into the darkness of the night. Entoma's head turned with an uncanny motion to look at the interfering intruder. More than several yards away was a woman dressed in black. The man-woman, out of breath, was behind her. Thanks, Tia. I thought I was a goner. So you have red blood too, huh, Gagarin? What is so surprising about that? I am pretty sure you've seen me get injured plenty of times. I thought maybe by now it'd be blue like you powered up. That is not a power-up. It is more like changing races than a class change. The sound of their cheerful banter irritated Entoma. She was the strong one, and therefore she was allowed to be calm. They needed to think about their position. "Are you almost ready?" said your goodbyes. Intoma braced herself for the first time. She wasn't scared of the man-woman Gagarin. The problem was the new opponent Tia. If her outfit wasn't a fashion statement, it meant she was a ninja, a class that required at least 60 levels to acquire. That meant the teleportation that had saved Gagarin from Intoma's attack was ninjutsu. If her opponent was really a ninja, victory wouldn't be so easy, even for Intoma. She wanted to end this with some energy in reserve, but under the circumstances, she no longer had that luxury. Spider talisman. Faster than her opponent could move, Intoma scattered 4 talismans. The moment they hit the ground, they changed into large spiders. These spiders were strong. They were on par with the results of the spell summon 3rd tier monster, but for Intoma, gaining even a bit of insight into what her opponent could do would be tremendously helpful. It would also give her time to prepare for combat. Bug tamers' bug weapons were powerful, but they had drawbacks. One drawback was that summoning the bugs took a little time. Shadow double. As Tia's ninjutsu activated, her shadow wriggled, and another tier appeared. Intoma paid it no attention. The doubles created with shadow double had only a quarter of the user's power. The only exception was their evasion, which was proportional to the amount of MP expended. The double might have been a tough opponent for her spiders, but to Intoma, it wasn't even worth fighting. The main problem was how much combat ability the original ninja possessed. Intoma readied her ace move, bullet bugs, and one other. At the same time, she slapped a talisman on herself to boost her strength. The bullet bugs amassed out of thin air and began to envelop her left arm. Each insect was about an inch long. They gleamed like steel. Their pointy, conical bodies closely resembled rifle bullets. This similar shape was only natural, as they were put to the exact same use. The ninja's double had its hands full dodging an assault from one of the spiders. The original was fending off 2. She couldn't be terribly high level if she had taken out only one after this much time. In that case, even combining her potential with Gagarin was most likely not enough to interfere with Intoma's victory. It wouldn't be that easy. She would settle this quickly, forcefully, and without mercy. Satisfied with the weight settled on her left arm, she aimed at Tia. The bugs had gathered on Intoma's arm until it was twice as big around. They began moving down past her wrist. After reaching the tips of her fingers, they all scrambled to be the first to take off. The continuous noise of their wings was reminiscent of a Gatling gun. Shooting mercilessly through her spider minions, a total of 150 bullet bugs choked the air as they streaked toward Tia. These living missiles could penetrate steel. They would scar and fell even the largest of tree trunks. But in the face of these death slugs, Tia relied on ninjutsu, unyielding diamond shield. A shield, dazzlingly radiant with all the colors of the rainbow, appeared in front of her. The huge hexagon sparkled, ripping through the darkness, and the bugs crashed into it. The barrier lasted less than a few seconds before breaking apart with the clear tinkle of shattering glass. By then, the barrage had ended, and Tia, safely behind cover, was unharmed. Intoma clicked her tongue despite not having one. Still, uncovering her opponent's hidden moves one after the other would illuminate the path to victory. Tia could still handle her attacks for now, but the moment they surpassed the ninja's ability, they would be like a muddy stream surging past its banks. The stream would swallow everything. With her bug sword, Intoma batted away the throwing knife flying toward her from the front. With her bug shield, she blocked Gagarin's attack from above. That blow must have come a long way down. The shell bug shrieked as the impressive momentum slammed into it. If Intoma had been blinded by the dazzling light of the unyielding diamond shield, she probably wouldn't have been able to block Gagarin's charging attacks in the dark. But her sight wasn't about to be affected by something so minor. Moreover, her field of vision was much wider than humans, even with this mask on. Perhaps judging a follow-up attack too risky, Gagarin glided out of range. She moved as if she was skating on the surface of a lake, barely moving her feet. Her agility, despite her heavy build, showed that her wounds had fully healed. She crushed bullet bug carcasses under her feet. Dry crunching noises filled the air as she stood next to Tia. Crap, I have zero confidence we can win this. What's up with her? Her timing is so perfect. She blocked my attack without even looking. Wider field of vision, there is something else. There's a good chance she has a bug tamer ability or something similar, that or special sense from some kind of magic spell. Still though, why doesn't she attack while we Ray chatting? The advantage is overwhelmingly on her side. A beast first assesses its opponent's strength, then attacks their weak point. Gotcha, so she's checking out all the tricks up our sleeves. People who are actually cautious, unlike our little Miss Tiny, are a pain in the neck. I guess I shouldn't underestimate them too much just because they Ray human. Well, I have some other reasons too, but see, in that case, I don't need this bug. The bug clinging to Entoma's right arm fell to the ground and scurried off, vanishing into the darkness. Instead, come here, a new creature coiled around her free arm.